God is saying to you. Stop scrolling. Hear this. Like a gentle knock that refuses to be ignored. There is a voice with urgent things to say, and it's coming from a place you wouldn't expect. I know that sounds strange. A woman who has died is trying to warn you about your neighbor. The opening image is startling because it asks you to listen to something beyond the usual senses. But some warnings arrive through unusual channels because the risk is unusual. Archangel Michael steps forward in this message to give weight and protection to what will be said. The warning is not meant to frighten you for its own sake, but to open your eyes and equip you to act with wisdom. Breathe deep for a moment and lean into this story because it is not merely a tale. It is an appeal to pay attention, to prepare, and to protect what matters most in your life. There are people whose lives are threaded into your daily rhythms. The neighbor with the friendly wave, the one who borrows a tool, or the person who waters their lawn at dusk. We trust proximity. It feels natural to assume those who live close are the least likely to harm us. Yet the world is complex, and sometimes darkness wears the face of the ordinary. The woman who has passed on, imagining her not as a ghost in the tabloid sense, but as someone who has crossed a threshold and now sees with different sight, comes as a messenger. She speaks not to sensationalize, but to inform. Her message is simple and grave. Pay attention to signs you may have minimized. Listen to the inner alarms you've tuned out. Do not assume every smile hides no agenda. This is not a call to paranoia. It is a call to wisdom. Let me walk you through what this looks like in human terms. The warning is not likely to arrive as a dramatic confession shouted over a fence. More often, it's a pattern. Small odd behaviors that repeat, an unusual curiosity about your schedule, an attempt to learn things about your comings and goings, an interest in relationships you keep private. The dead woman's insight is that these things, when combined, form a pattern that points to an intention. Someone is watching you in ways that feel more than friendly. Perhaps they show up just when you leave for work, ask probing questions under the guise of neighborly concern, or have access to information they shouldn't. The messenger urges you to take these threads seriously before they become a rope. Patterns matter. Patterns are the language of hidden intent. Learn to read them. You must also know what this warning is not. It is not permission to storm across the lawn with accusations or to whisper rumors that ruin reputations without cause. The woman who speaks from beyond does not seek vengeance. She seeks protection for you. The script we will live out should be rooted in prudence, not spectacle. That means gathering facts, not gossip, documenting, not dramatizing, securing, not shaming. If you have an intuition, if that small, insistent sense of unease has been present, treat it as an early alarm rather than an accusation. Put soft walls around your life in sensible ways. Change routines where you feel exposed. Adjust the information you share and be deliberate about who you invite into private spaces. Practical steps matter because warnings without action are like a fire alarm ignored. First, secure your home and your information. Check doors and locks. Test alarms and review who has spare keys. Consider simple cybersecurity measures. Change Wi-Fi passwords. Audit who has access to shared family calendars and be careful with what you share on public social media. Small details can be pieced together. If you have a smart home device, check permissions and the devices linked to it. It's not about living in fear. It's about sovereignty over your own space. A person intending harm often relies on a lack of boundaries. When you tighten them in reasonable ways, you remove the easiest paths to harm. Second, document everything. Keep a small private notebook or encrypted file where you record dates, times, and details of odd interactions. If someone says something offhand that feels invasive, write it down. If a package arrives late or missing, note it. These small entries, if needed later, become a thread of testimony. They help you discern patterns without depending on memory under stress. Human memory shifts when we are anxious. Documentation keeps facts steady. If you ever need to involve law enforcement or legal advisors, the chronological record will be invaluable. Think of it as responsible stewardship of your life, not as a sign you have already convinced yourself of guilt. Third, cultivate a watchful but kind posture with your neighbor. You don't have to become a stranger to everyone on your street. There is a way to be polite and guarded at once. If asked for personal details, you can answer with the ordinary civility of a neighbor while keeping specifics private. If someone offers help, accept it only when it's safe and you feel comfortable. Practice short, clear boundaries. Thanks. I've got it covered, or we prefer to keep that private. Boundaries can be said kindly. The dead woman's urgency is that you maintain these defenses with grace so that you do not give away the very access that could be used against you. Fourth, seek wise counsel and community. Tell a small trusted group, 2 or 3 people about your concerns. These should be folks who are steady, discreet, and practical. A pastor, a community leader, a legal advisor, or a trusted friend who sees things clearly can help you evaluate whether the pattern you're noticing is truly concerning. They can also serve as witnesses and support, and their outside perspective often spots angles you miss. Don't let fear isolate you. Let trusted people increase your discernment. Community is not about alarmism. It's about shared vigilance. Now consider spiritual safeguards alongside practical ones. The message arrives with an invitation to spiritual awareness. Whether you are religious or simply spiritually inclined, increase practices that center and protect you. Prayer, intentional silence, protective scripture, or meditative affirmations, or simply lighting a candle and naming your desire for clarity and peace. Ask for Archangel Michael's protection. Imagine him standing as a sentinel, not in a way that replaces human prudence, but in a way that complements it. Spiritual practices fortify your inner life, helping you respond with calm rather than panic when the alarms sound. They also attune you to wise nudges, those small inner prompts that tell you when to speak, when to hold silence, and when to seek help. If the woman's warning points toward actual danger, threats, stalking, or manipulation escalating in ways that feel unsafe, do not hesitate to involve authorities. The script of prudence transitions to one of formal protection when there is a credible threat. Call the local non-emergency police line. Get advice from victim services and consult legal counsel about restraining orders if needed. Law enforcement is not an enemy of neighborliness. It's a safeguard for those times when civility is weaponized. The dead woman's plea is that you don't mistake the preservation of peace for the ignoring of threats. Safety sometimes requires official intervention, and there is no shame in asking for help. There is emotional work to be done as well. Receiving a warning like this can rattle the soul. You may feel betrayal at the thought that someone close by could harbor harm. You may grieve the loss of innocence that comes with waking to danger. Don't minimize those feelings. Allow yourself grieving and processing with a counselor or trusted confidant. Emotional resilience is part of practical readiness. When your inner life is tended, when anxiety is met with tools and loneliness is met with community, you can act from strength rather than reactivity. Spiritual protection and emotional health go hand in hand. One important posture the messenger calls you to adopt is humility. Humility coupled with discernment. Avoid public accusations or social media posts that name and shame without evidence. Public exposure can backfire. It can escalate conflict. It can damage reputations and it can undermine your credibility if proof is thin. Instead, let your actions be proportionate to the evidence you gather. If a pattern becomes concerning enough to warrant formal steps, take them through the right channels. If the neighbor is simply eccentric or overbearing without true malice, consider a mediated conversation through community resources. The woman from beyond is not calling for scandal. She is calling for life-preserving clarity. There are also moments when what appears dark is actually an invitation to compassion. People are complicated. Sometimes odd behaviors are symptoms of loneliness, addiction, mental illness, or past trauma. If your neighbor's conduct is unsettling but not overtly Harmful, consider ways to engage with care. Invite them into community meals with boundaries in place. Suggest local resources that might help or ask a neutral mutual contact to check in. The call to preserve your safety and the call to love your neighbor are not mutually exclusive. Discernment helps you hold both. The deceased woman's warning is not an endorsement of suspicion as a default posture. It's a reminder that love must sometimes be tempered with wisdom. As the story unfolds in your life, be prepared for responses that surprise you. People who were once friendly may grow defensive when confronted with any hint of concern. Others may rally to your side. Watch for the signs of escalation and the signs of retreat. Notice whether your neighbor respects your boundaries. If they become invasive, aggressive, or try to control the narrative, that is an indicator to pull back and seek formal protection. If they respond with apology and change, that is a pathway to reconciliation. The wiser route is almost always to prefer a steady rebuilding of trust over dramatic exposure, unless safety requires decisive public steps. Listen to the subtle confirmations that the warning was not merely fear. A neighbor who repeatedly asks questions about your schedule, a stranger showing up at odd times always when you are alone, or material things being moved in ways that cannot be explained are confirmations worth noting. In such cases, your documentation and community witnesses become crucial. If you ever need to present your concern to authorities, the work you did in recording and in seeking counsel will allow them to act decisively on your behalf. There is a deeper spiritual consolation woven into this whole message. You are not alone in being watched over. The woman who delivers the warning is in this narrative an emissary of heavenly care. Whether you interpret that literally or metaphorically, the essential truth is the same. There is an advocate for your safety. Archangel Michael's presence is imagined here to reinforce that protection. He is a reminder that there are forces aligned with good who will intervene when you act with wisdom. That does not remove your human responsibility, but it does surround it with hope. When you prepare practically and spiritually, help often arrives in ways you could not have scripted. Now imagine the day after you follow these steps. You have secured the obvious weak points. The woman's warning was not to steal your peace, but to redirect it into disciplined vigilance. You will walk differently, yes, but in a way that is stronger, clearer, and kinder to your own life. Before we close, let me speak to the heart. Acting on such a message can feel heavy. You may worry about being labeled paranoid or making mountains out of molehills. Those are real concerns, and prudence protects you from both extremes. Use your common sense. Ask trusted people to test your perceptions and give space for both skepticism and faithfulness. Courageous living in community involves both humility and boldness. It is the willingness to say, I will not be naive, but I will also not be cruel. That balance is the work of a mature spirit. Please subscribe to our YouTube channel to reach 10,000 divine subscribers very soon. Please share this video to your loved ones. Type Amen to affirm. Thanks for watching.